Hello, this is Jeffu, and welcome back to the vlog. We just touched down in Salt Lake City. Beautiful state. I mean, look at the mountains up there. Doing a day trip on my way back to the East Coast from the West Coast. Dropping by to say hi to my buddy, Evan Hafer, who's the founder of Black Rifle Coffee Company, one of the fastest growing coffee companies in America today. We've actually become good friends. His background is super interesting. He started his career as a soldier. He served in special operations and became a CIA contractor. And after he left service, he started getting into business, and from there has that American dream story of founding a New York Stock Exchange publicly traded business. So today we're gonna have some fun, nerd out about coffee and nerd out about business. Let's get into the vlog.
Jeff is like the plug.
This guy's a genius.
Gotta actually eat L's along the way.
I can be helpful, let me know.
Business.
Jeffrey's mic'd up.
Evan,
What's up, dude?
good to see you.
Good to see you, man.
Nice
How are
stash.
you? Thanks, man. Did you guys get any coffee yet?
Not yet.
Oh, sweet. I'll make you some.
No, I was gonna say, gotta save up the caffeine load here.
Let's go back to the lab. This is an Ethiopian.
I think that's something that I just realized when we first were hanging out, that in San Francisco with all the coffee nerd hipsters, they were doing the pour overs and had all the scientific measurements. But
Yeah.
I'm just seeing how you do it. I mean,
Like, it's fairly consistent across the entire coffee industry as to what coffees are cool, meaning what tastes good, what do we think is interesting, what do we think is fun, and there's all this stuff happening in the coffee industry that's like fun and interesting. And then there's like the old coffee scene, and that's like dark coffees that are just like, they're sleepy.
Yep.
Right? This is like fun and interesting. It's single origin. A lot of it like anaerobic, so a lot of it is basically you're putting it in tanks, you're putting other things in it, you're letting it, mature for a few days, and like we're blending hops and cherries, and some of it's like cayenne and all this like really cool stuff. It's kind of what happened back in the day with like microbreweries.
sounds like also like wine tasting,
Yeah,
right? Like you
very.
can nerd out to the infinite level in terms of subtlety and nuance.
100%. And there are things where, like, if I really wanted to get OCD on this, like, I would take you through an entire level of things that would, like, your eyes would glaze over and you'd be like, dude, come on, I just want some coffee. Whereas, I'm doing everything the right way in the context of, like, this is a 1:16 ratio,
Yeah.
brewed Ethiopian single origin micro lot that is a great coffee.
Yeah.
And I've got the grinder set at the right size. I'm going to put it through at the right time. I'm just not walking you through all the painstakingly difficult detail
No,
to
but I
like
think
bore
that's why
you.
I want to show the vlog, because
Yeah.
like a lot of the initial marketing was like, all right, veteran owned, we're blowing up coffee cans with like machine guns.
Yeah.
But then you just like talk to you as the actual coffee connoisseur, and your palate and nuance in terms of actually the craftsmanship of this is at the highest level. People should like see that side of the brand, which is it's not just like guns and coffee. It's like, wait, like Evan actually is at that level of, a world-class coffee barista, tastemaker, if you will.
Yeah, that's my DNA,
Yeah.
right? So I guess really explosive, cool shit.
Yeah.
Like I love it. Like
Yeah.
I love explosives. Explosives are super fun. I love machine guns.
Yeah.
They're super fun. I love micro lot coffees.
Yep.
It's really interesting to me. So when you look at like the confluence of passion and how you develop a product from top to bottom, as far as like the authenticity and the connection between what I would say is a founder and then the consumer and then binding all of those elements of your community. I've been roasting coffee because I wanted to, because I was interested in it since 2006.
Right.
I did it recreationally. I did it because I wanted to take interesting coffees with me to all the garden spots of the world during, the global war on terror.
Garden spots. Is that a euphemism?
Yeah. That was like my forte, right? It was like I was living in and working in the most dangerous places in the world. I was doing what most people would classify as some of the most dangerous work in the world, if not the most dangerous work in the world. It's extremely interesting. It took a level of commitment, planning, and execution that quite literally only, I would say, less than 1% of the entire world ever gets to live in that type of environment, because your mistakes, if you make the mistake or a mistake, you're losing life, limb, or eyesight. And you can still get away with mistakes. I'm not saying it's always you make one mistake, you're dead, but your mistakes are hyper amplified they're under a level of scrutiny individually because of the anxiety, stress, the level of training and skill sets it takes to be successful, that even if you do everything right, you can still get fucked up. So now you have to not only do everything right, because if you do make a mistake and things are going wrong, pear-shaped as we like to call them, you could die.
Plus the national implication as well, right? Like you're representing the country. I guess some hats you're more black, but generally speaking, if you're wearing the American flag, you represent the country when you're out there.
Yeah, I regardless, it's like, hey, strategic interests and whether or not politically people agree with it, it's irrelevant to me, because service is something that even if you trace it all the way back to Socrates, or if you were to follow it from either Western or Eastern philosophy, and let's go back 2,500 to 3,000 years from the root of what I would say civilization and the intellectualism with the capacity to understand philosophy, duty and selfless service is still something that translates through cross-culturally. So you can say, I love my country. You can say it, but the action of actually serving the country wherever you are, and Socrates was saying the level of service and commitment exemplified from virtue was serving a country. So you don't have to necessarily agree strategically with foreign policy. You have to agree with, we're building something bigger than just ourselves.
You're harkening back to like my I-Hum classes at Stanford, which is like the intro humanities courses. It's like, Plato talks about like the philosopher king. You have to be a warrior, strong in mind and spirit, but like they want philosophers to be the rulers. And it's clear that you have a philosophical side of you as well.
The warrior poet, the warrior philosopher. I actually believe in this, into the context of war can help refine and evolve an individual. I'm a pseudo-pacifist at this point in my life based on a combination of reasons, but like war is, it is so complex. You have this level of duty and commitment to someone, something, and other people than yourself. So giving your whole self to someone other than you, to a team, to your nation, to your community, right? Like just forfeiting it and saying, I don't necessarily exist as an individual. I'm forfeiting my entire identity and I'm committing everything to this other thing. That's one thing. But then war itself is an experience. If you look at it from like a radio wave, or how a radio wave will do this, right? It goes up and down.
Wave,
sine wave. Let's say an average person's experience sits in this bandwidth and it only goes up to this. And the worst thing that ever happens to them is they back into their neighbor's fucking car, right? That's the worst thing that ever happened to them. Or they got pneumonia when they were 7, or their great uncle that was 96 passed away, or whatever. It's the worst thing that ever happened to them in their life. They're down to this point. And then the best thing that ever happened to them in their life was, they
got a new car.
It's a great example. New car, my uncle died at 96 or whatever, right? Okay, well then your life experience bandwidth is this thin, whereas like I might have lived in 3 seconds the most tragic and worst experience that people could imagine outside of like their legs being blown off. And then also the single most incredible experience that you might have in a lifetime in 3 seconds. And that might happen 150 times in 30 days. So my life experience bandwidth goes from like this to this. And that's part of the reason why veterans have such a hard time fitting back in, especially like warrior class veterans, because everything
amplitude is so freaking big, and now it's like,
and now you're like,
nothing triggers you.
Nothing. So then you're trying to get this like stretch outside of your bandwidth because you're like, oh well, life can be much more interesting, and I can be so much more different than I am today. Like if everything you do is built on a script, your office is 26 minutes away from your house. You work from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. You're just going back and forth. And then your bandwidth gets, because that's what happens with people, right? Is they shrink their bandwidth of experience all the way down to it's fractionally experiential. They're not experiencing anything, and then they're sedating themselves with, alcohol
Netflix,
or drugs or Netflix or whatever it is, and then they're going down even further, any further, and then they're never forcing themselves to be uncomfortable or force themselves to like evolve or mature, or whatever it means. There's a million different things. So they're really fucking really unhappy. And then it takes like an antidepressant to pull them out of it because they've got to like figure out how to get their serotonin levels up.
Chemically induced happiness.
exactly.
What do we do here?
So
400, I noticed 460 grams.
480, yeah. So it's just about 480. That's a 1:16 ratio on a 30 gram in, 480 grams out, which is yielded. And
You're
these
very
are
aggressive with the aeration. You get the oxygen.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's cooled off a little bit because we're talking, but typically you'll run everything that's at 199 and then it's consistent. So I put it back on the brewer. In the debate right now, and it's not really a debate, it's a constant debate as to how often and how much are you infusing the water into the coffee? So at what rate over X amount of time? So it's like, what's your flow rate around how much time? So then you have your filters will obviously change that. This is a filter that's built on a certain amount of time. That was about 4.5 minutes to fruition. It still sits at probably 190 at this point. You and I have just enough. If you had like a giant cup, it's going to really cool off by the time you get to the bottom versus if it stays consistent at 190 degrees at a 1:16 ratio. So it's good coffee.
Yep.
So when I say it's good, it's like, this is an experimental batch that we run. So I have like Slap Your Mama, pineapple cake. Like these are some of the samples that I'm working on right now. This is a good Ethiopian. It's not great, it's just good. However, if you were to go to any coffee shop in San Francisco and ask for a Chemex or a pour over, which could be a combination of other pour overs, this is easily a $6 pour over anywhere you go in San Francisco. It's because it would be considered one of the best pour overs in town.
I think inflation's more now. I feel like it's gonna be $7-8 now. So
I think it's gonna be. I think you're right. It's gonna be like $10.
Now.
It's gonna be like Brooklyn prices. Right?
I just came from San Francisco. I'm like, I'm just seeing the blue bottles of the world. Just every time I come back, it's like $1 extra.
It is. Yeah. I think we're tracking that actually. I was talking about that today. A lot of these coffee shops they've gone through in 12 to 18 months, they've taken price, which is increased price 4 times. So they've done it 4 times in the last 18 months to just track with inflation. But the other thing is people are cutting out their coffee stop. So they're not going and buying a cup of coffee at a retail location. So they're going to grocery or they're buying a subscription, they're buying it online. They want to be they're a little bit more price sensitive. Right. So they've had to compensate for a decrease in traffic and then obviously increase in inflation by taking price. So they're just taking price all the fucking time. Whereas I've taken price once. So other people are taking price like 4 times. I'm taking it once. Which, to be fair, could we? Yeah, but I mean, if my margin profile is fine, like why am I going to price gouge just because my competition is? That doesn't make sense.
I feel like we're in this. I mean, just across our the businesses that I overlook and oversee. I feel like there's going to be a return to value. Like I think that like Main Street, like normal people are getting bent over. I think it's hard, like a crazy economy. It's really hard to understand.
It's very hard, and then you have like all these different. I'm sure you've been tracking this conversation around, cap gains going to, 44, which is insane,
and
right?
Then what, like unrealized capital gains as well?
Yeah,
This is like
which is like, it would eviscerate small business. Yeah. It would just like...
It eviscerate every business.
Everybody, everybody.
From public to non-public. It's just like, you get taxed on stuff that you don't even have, you haven't seen $1 from this. It's like, wait, I gotta like sell the stock of the company I built from scratch. I haven't taken $1 out of the company and I gotta pay taxes on that appreciation. Yeah. So I gotta like sell, like it's just like this ratchet down to selling everything.
I don't know who built it, nor is it a condemnation on whoever is putting the narrative out. I don't really give a shit. But it's obvious to me that somebody that would propose something like that doesn't quite understand the way small business and or any business runs, because there's this image that the people at the top are just getting wealthier and wealthier and wealthier, right? Whereas like they don't understand that even a guy like me, I didn't take compensation for 2 years. I built this out of my garage. Right. I was floating this all on my credit cards. Like, I was late on rent and lease payments. Like building we're in today, I bought it and I didn't have enough money, but I was like, nobody would give me a loan. So we had to like generate our own capital.
Yeah, I'm sure the vast majority of your net worth is stock in this company. And like, it's not like you have like $500 million in cash, like, ha ha ha. Like,
no,
it's just like, yo, like you got
like Scrooge McDuck, dude. Like most people don't understand.
Yeah, I think they don't understand. They see that you raise money, you IPO. Wait, you have $1 billion in cash in your pocket now. And just like, I wish. I wish.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah. Well, the other thing is like, yeah, you're 100% right, but even then, you have to disclose all of that. Yeah. So if I have more stock, it doesn't do anything for me. I can't do anything with it personally.
Yeah, I have to disclose. Like if you dump it, the company like like gets fucked basically.
Well, and more importantly, you have to disclose it well in advance. Like It's called the 10b-5. You have to tell people, 6 months in advance, what is your 10b-5? How often will you be trading? At what prices? So you have to disclose that well in advance.
Yeah.
And I haven't sold any. Yeah. So for 2 years, since
it's public record. It's not like you're bullshitting. It's like literally SEC
anybody
filings.
can look it up. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you really want to know Evan's business, SEC.gov, Evan Hafer.
You can go take a look at it.
Take a look at the compensation packages. Like you can look it up.
I make $1 a year. That's how much. That's my comp this year. I make $1 a year. That was intentional because, when you're building a business and you're sensitive to your shareholders and everybody that's invested in this. Okay, well, if you guys aren't making money, I'm not going to make money. Yeah. It's very intentional in the context of we have to have a really exceptional executive team. We have to be able to execute and deliver on the goals and objectives of the company. More importantly, hey guys, if you're not going to make money, I'm not making money. Yeah. We're all in it together. Versus, and I see it because you see compensation packages, and granted, there's ways that you have to look at comp packages because there's restricted stock, there's all these things that feed into the definition of a CEO or a founder's employment package, which you have to be able to look in detail and say, oh my gosh, that guy looks like he made so much money. Well, no, it was in stock. Elon, I'm pretty sure you probably have tracked what happened to him. Correct me if I'm wrong if you've been following this, but that was a deal that he cut 4 years ago. The board was like, there's no way he's going to hit this. Yeah, we'll do it because it's crazy. There's no way he's going to do it. And then he ended up doing it. And then he got penalized for doing the thing that he told everybody he was going to do.
It wasn't even penalized. The courts randomly voided the compensation, and the lawyers who did the litigation want $15 billion for fucking over the founder CEO who literally was made fun of because you're going to turn this random shitty electric car company into a $1 trillion market cap. A 10, 15x at a $50 billion scale. Right?
And then he did it.
Imagine turn Black Rifle Coffee into $100 billion company. It's if you do that, you deserve a lot of compensation.
You deserve a ton of comp.
Yeah.
You made a ton of people really wealthy.
Yeah, a lot of people became millionaires off of that run.
Yeah.
And it's wait, 5 years later, you're going to void it by a random lawsuit of a guy that had 22 shares.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's fucked up.
It's super crazy. I think that's part of the whole thing that people don't, when they're getting into business, they're getting into this idea as this utopian pipe dream of fast cars and private jets or whatever. It's actually, it's a lot of discussions around your P&L. There's a lot of spreadsheet work. There's a lot of just blocking and tackling.
You get the toys if you make a lot of people money.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Everyone that's on your team gets a lot of money. And then maybe you get some toys too, right? Because what are your shareholders, investors? They're going to buy some toys too. And it's great. That's
the way
that's motivation.
Be. Yeah. They don't tell you that you're going to spend a huge percentage of your time talking to your attorneys about the random possibilities in your, your insurance and your debt covenants and the details of which it's at times.
I'm sure you spent way too much time and way too much money on lawyers dealing with random bullshit.
Yeah, there are times in this where you think my gosh, we have created this legal industrial complex in the United States, which to be fair, that's what it is. Yeah. Because whether you're getting a divorce, right? Which is who wins in a divorce? The attorneys.
The lawyers, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's two people, and they're and the lawyers get a third of it, basically.
It's you have 50-50 essentially of we'll say at 100% if you just chop it down the middle and you just gave, whatever, right? I'm just using this as an example. And now you inject third party in there. Now you have 3 people that you're splitting the pie with versus okay, now we're just chopping it in the middle and going separate ways. I'm not using it because I'm getting a divorce. I'm just saying there is a legal industrial complex. And I'm not smited or anything, I'm
I love my lawyers, right? They're great. But it's expensive. It's a line item in doing business.
It's a line item that you have to be prepared to just continue to write checks. I was joking around about this, man. I'd love to be sued over something I actually did. That'd be just a breath of fresh air one of these days. Man, that'd be cool. It'd be so cool.
I got to do something bad and get punished for it.
But then you're reading things. You're okay, well, what does this person want? Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay. I had a contract dispute that was just thrown out not too long ago. It was completely dismissed with prejudice. Based on the terms of the contract that we signed years ago, he was trying to argue that he had perpetual royalties literally for life.
Right. I remember, I think I saw this across the headlines.
Yeah. I'm like, there's not a deal structure in place.
It's like some co-man that was asking for it, right?
And it's like laughable because you're like, what are you talking about, man? Like, we're no longer in business and you think that you're going to take a perpetual royalty off something that I built? Like, you've fucking lost your mind. But you can say that. Everybody can agree this is like completely crazy.
You still got to pay lawyers to just show up in court.
That's right.
And talk back and forth a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Over the last 9 months, I've been doing more videos around business, and I feel like it's so easy for these viral clips to have like that snapshot headline. Oh, people are getting too rich. Oh, like this conspiracy theory. But I think to your point, there's a lot of nuance to this stuff.
When it's hard.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying like people that work hard should be rewarded. Like, I mean, that's just like a standard carrot type proposition. You work hard, you should be rewarded. If you work hard and you want to be wealthy, because there's a difference too, right? It's like, hey, I want to work hard and I want to be rewarded through my work, which is the work itself is fulfilling. That's a different path. If your passion is tuning pianos, I don't know how you're going to turn that into a multi-billion-dollar apparatus, right? But if you're saying, my passion is this, and I want to be wealthy and create a ton of opportunity for other people to be wealthy, there's a system where you should be rewarded for that and where it accelerates everybody's economic circumstance. I believe, right? It's my opinion. And there is this narrative that everybody that works hard should be wealthy. If I went outside and dug holes all day,
you're working hella hard.
I'm working really hard. I'm in the sun, I'm in the rain, I'm in the snow, I'm digging a hole all day long. Let's just say I just got a shovel and decided that was my life from this point forward. Eventually I would be homeless and I would be living in that hole with no money, no means in order to sustain myself continuing to dig that hole. I'm working really hard with no justification nor compensation. There's not a logical reason as to everybody that works hard should not be wealthy, because I'm not saying that they don't work hard. I'm not even saying they're not ethical, honorable, and amazing people. I'm saying they've chosen a life that is on a different track than a person that wants to build a business or build wealth or build opportunity and institutions around other people. It's just a different choice. You know, if you go into education or medicine's a good example. You go in and you want to be a family practice physician. You're capped out at a certain point. You're going to make a good living, but you're going to cap out at a certain point. That's that's going to be it. If you're going to be a professor, if even, a tenured professor at Stanford, what are they capped at? What do you think?
Probably like $1 million, $1.5 million. I mean, you could get up there, but like you'll be a millionaire.
You're capped.
It's like you have to start companies to be a billionaire.
You do. Like that's the whole point. It's like if you're going to have a B or if you're going to have hundreds of M's, you have to make a choice. And that's probably not going to be a third grade teacher. I'm not saying anything bad about third grade teachers. I'm saying they're a necessity. But to say, well, everybody should be wealthy because they work hard, well, that's their choice. That's the beauty of the system. You can fucking choose.
No, I think it's the way, I agree with that a lot. And I think the way I think about it is you have to create something of use for other people, right? It's a voluntary transaction to be like, hey, I want to buy Evan's coffee because it's better than everything else. And I'd rather give my hard-earned dollars to Evan's coffee company versus every other coffee company. You do that for like 1 million, 10 million people, you deserve to have that scale of having a larger apparatus. And I think that's like where, digging holes is hard work, but you're not adding value to other people. And I think people forget that ultimately business is being of service to others in a voluntary transaction. So if you can do that one at a time as a doctor, you can do pretty well. If you can do that 1 to millions, that's how you get those big numbers.
It's not even saying that person's going to be better. They're not going to be happier. They're not going to do like all the things that are actually meaningful in life. Any of those things are not lending themselves to the definition of happy, fulfilled, intellectual, whatever it is. They're just wealthy. Okay, that's fine. Like, you've clearly defined that you're going to be wealthy. You can be a complete piece of shit in every one of those categories and be wealthy. It's fine. And you can be a complete piece of shit and be a third grade teacher. You can still be who you want to be in the system, but this like pipe dream that everybody that works hard or is wealthy, well, that's a better one. Everybody that's wealthy is like successful, healthy, happy, fulfilled. That's also an inappropriate narrative, because it's not true. I know a lot of really unhealthy, unhappy, like socially and emotionally dysfunctional wealthy people because they've completely given themselves up to chasing the
capital gain.
dragon. Yeah. They're like opium addicts for wealth, right? It's like
Yeah.
the money, give it to me. And I'm not counter-capitalist. That's not even a thing. For me, it's about being able to choose your direction, propel your own life into that mission, and then trying to be spiritually happy, fulfilled, ethical, all the different values that actually, what I truly believe is build accretive value in one's life. Wealth is just like a part of it.
Yeah.
Right. And there's plenty of people and examples out there where you're like, that person's very wealthy, but they're also really unhealthy, really unhappy, and they haven't done any of those things that are virtuous.
Right.
And then there's plenty of examples on the other end where they're also impoverished, living in a trailer or a tent, and they're unhappy, unhealthy, all of those other things. They're living very similar lives. One just looks better on paper than the other one. That's it.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously the reverse example of that too. I know a lot of really very successful, because I truly believe this too. It's like, if you're healthy and successful and you're committed to being exceptional in a bunch of different categories, it's also easier for you to be good at each one of those line items, to live in a virtuous life. Because if you're not committed with every ounce of your being to one, I don't think you know how to necessarily live the other.
Yeah, once you have excellence in one field, it's much easier to translate across.
It's like a language.
Yeah.
You learn another language, and then it gets easier. Like if you learn French, you learn Thai, you just kind of start to fall down.
All right, we're at the, I guess, Evan Man Cave. So looks like he took down some animals, all done by hand, real, and brought the jump on the pod. So should be fun. Talk some shop. We'll link the pod when it's live. It feels very American.
Originally wanted. He just looks like he's got like a little cabin back here. Yeah, right? I got hired some fucking cowboy to come in here to learn cameras, and he's like, I don't know how these newfangled things work, man. He said, learn how to do podcasts or I don't need you.
Adding things
That's
to the
true.
world.
That's true.
It's
That's exactly what he said.
yeah. This is actually yummy.
It's good, right?
Yeah, Chris, I need a brand deal.
Because I need a brand.
No, get Evan the brand. All right, Evan, the host extraordinaire, we're doing something simple. Meat and water.
Meat and water with spicy salt, which I fucking love, by the way. All right.
Let's explain this. What needs to be explained here?
Nothing, actually. There's zero that needs to be explained. This is done to about medium rare, depending on the slice. It's 4 decent size steaks, basically cubed, because
Was it hand hunted by you?
No, it's a straight up beef. But I will do this for you guys, which is not a commercial or plug. I just love this stuff. It's firecracker flavors. It's fucking super hot salt. It's really good.
It's just spicy salt, right?
All this.
Steak and salt. All right, we just got back to Salt Lake City Airport. Today, honestly, was probably a perfect day. In and out, quick, but a beautiful, awesome day with a good friend, talking business, talking life. Evan had us over to his place with a beautiful steak dinner. He's obviously too humble to say it was a very simple host, but that's what I actually appreciate. You know, no pretense, just actually good food, good company, good conversation. There's no sense of pretending or pretense or over showiness. I think that's what ultimately what true friendship is. Like, so thank you, Evan. That was awesome. I gotta have you over to my place, whether it's Miami or San Francisco or LA, I guess wherever we want to hang out. My turn to repay the favor. But an excellent vlog. Hope it was meaningful and useful and educational for you, as it was for me. Now we're off to Miami. See you guys soon. Vlog out.